Good afternoon, everybody. This is Mayor Mike, and I'm at 50 Chapman Place. And for those of you who have been watching, you know that 50 Chapman Place is the new town hall. Town hall is undergoing a $21 million renovation that will take the better part of a year. So we've relocated town hall to the Community Cultural Center. So if you need any services, like assessor or tax collector, among others, please check our website. Please give us a call. We want to make take every opportunity to provide a high level of service, but in reduced quarters, like we are at the Community Cultural Center, sometimes it's a little bit difficult. So calling ahead will have you not waste a trip. So again, we appreciate your patience, and this is Mike from 50 Chapman Place. That being said, we don't have any questions that came in this week for Ask the Mayor, but I have a number of important updates which I think you'll find interesting. So the first one is on Church Corners Inn. If you are following it on social media or some of the town's press releases or local papers, you know that back on January 11th of 2023, the town of East Hartford bought the Church Corners Inn for $950,000. Church Corners Inn was a basically rooming house with a lounge in the first floor, and it was responsible for 2,400 police calls over the last 5 years, or a little more than 500 on average a year. That's quite a few per month if you start to break it down. And then another 100 calls for fire. And those range from anything from shootings to drug overdoses to thefts to petty trespassing. But it's a considerable destabilizer for downtown, and the town looked to first purchase it, which we did. And then we are working to reestablish the reestablish the residents in accommodations that are far better somewhere down the road. That being said, the relocation was underway. It is challenging. We have a number of vulnerable residents there. But I want to tell you about what happened between February 4th and 5th. Due to the extreme cold, where temperatures dropped below zero, we had insufficient heat, and as a result, the sprinkler system froze up and a line was blown, and considerable flooding occurred throughout the entire Church Corners Inn. That being said, there was no heat, there were no sprinklers, there was no electric service, and the panels for both the electric service and the sprinklers were damaged. So that being said, we relocated on an emergency basis about 25 residents, all of them. We've shut the building down, and they were relocated safely to temporary lodging. That being said, we're going to assess the condition of the building, see what it costs, but because the long-term plan is to renovate it anyway, we're probably going to simply relocate those residents from their temporarily relocated residence. That being said, this week the residents will be able to get back in there by working with Management 360, which is an outside relocation company that we have hired, in order to get some of their personal belongings back, and that we can take some time to resettle them, because this is not an easy or fast process. That being said, as updates on Church Corners Inn become available, I will provide them to the community. That being said, Silver Lane Plaza, we had to reserve one of the interested parties in Rhode Island, and we did that. If you recall, about 2 weeks ago on a Friday, our 35-day appeals window had closed, and then we found out from our attorneys that we had to reserve a Rhode Island interested party, which we did. So therefore, we didn't have to reset the 35-day appeals deadline. But then late in the day, about a week ago, the Attorney General swooped in and filed a motion against us to undo the entire eminent domain proceedings in an effort to preserve their stoplight on Silver Lane. I know that sounds like a bit of an overkill with respect to the town simply would have agreed to do it, but the Attorney General wanted to preserve their statutory standing. So they absolutely got our attention. So we went back to court and we amended what they call the certificate of taking. And we're waiting for that to be mailed to us by the Superior Court. Once it's mailed to us, we believe we have accommodated all parties. We'll file that on the land records, and we should own the Silver Lane Plaza any day now. Perhaps as early as the time you're hearing this, but I'll give you updates in the next meeting. That being said, we simply wait week by week. We have already visited with the 12 or so owners of businesses at the Silver Lane Plaza, and they're aware of what's going on. So we're trying as best we can, both at Church Corners and in Silver Lane Plaza, to keep the communications flowing. You may have seen we produced a grand list. There was $45 million of increased real estate and personal property values, mostly real estate because the personal property was down, but still net increase of about $45 million, and $32 million of increase on motor vehicles. The crazy market still exists, and your cars are worth more than ever. That being said, we should have a little bit of new revenue to work with as we put together the budget, but the source of the budget tax increase is likely to be inflation-related costs that, like you, the town pays, and that's electricity, that's natural gas, and that's general procurement across all lines of anything that we use. That being said, I'll also provide folks with a bulky waste update, and that'll be at the council meeting, so I encourage everybody to watch the Tuesday meeting anytime there's a council meeting. March 6th, there's the National Development. We'll be holding a ceremony to open up that very important development for the town of East Hartford. You've heard me say it's 2,000 new jobs. You've heard me say it's about $4 million of an impact payment that we'll use to build both a youth facility to accommodate some of the space that we have in town, but more importantly, to give some of our youth something to do. And the other $1 million of the 4 will go to closing the East Coast Greenway gap. Capital Region Council of Governments is working on a study, and I hope that in the next 6 to 9 months they'll have some ideas as to how we close that gap effectively. Concourse Park, we expect to go back to the council on March 7th to redo both the development and the tax agreements. And then finally, I'll be communicating to the council that we've added some additional lighting to be added toward Robert Street. And as I end this communication with you, again, it's not on specifically ask the mayor things, but it's just me being transparent and communicating out, is we've received some communication from Moody's. Moody's is essentially our investment grade bond rater. And anytime the town wants to do things like pave roads or add a building, whether it be the senior center or the library or even additions onto the Board of Education, we have to put together what they call an official statement. That is a financial document that basically says, here's the risk that you'll accept when you buy East Hartford town bonds. So we have about $45 million of outstanding bonds. We pay those off in about 10 years, and that's at about $8 million a year. And for every $8 million we pay off, we generally replace at about $8 million. So we rarely fluctuate much higher than about $50 million of bonds at any given time. But Moody's makes an assessment and tells to the outside world what the quality of our bonds are, and that's through the official statement. We were rated a AA3. AAA is the highest rating, AA is the next tier, and single A is the third tier. Single A is rated about average, AAA is the gold standard, and we as a AA are above average. That being said, we were in jeopardy of losing our AA rating to a single A rating. But we made a presentation before Moody's, and that was our town treasurer, John Murphy, myself, and Melissa McCaw, who's both the finance director and the chief administrative officer. And we basically explained, much like the control tower that you've seen in 2022 and the control tower in 2023, we've explained what our plans are for the town. And the good news is Moody's has not taken us down to a single A, as was the expectation. They have left us at AA3. So rather than getting a 2 downgrade notch, we've been left where we are, and we appreciate Moody's interest in the town, and we appreciate them taking the time to understand our story. But I want to read one sentence. The first is the title. It says, Moody's confirms the town of East Hartford AA3 general obligation bond rating and assigns AA3 issuer to the rating. So that's the headline. But here's what I want to read, and it reaffirms something that I've said time and time and time again, and I will say time and time and time again, because people either choose not to believe it or they choose not to hear it, or they're simply like me and they sometimes forget. That being said, here's what Moody's said about the town. The rating reflects the town's financial position, which includes below average but stable reserves and liquidity. Operating balances will likely continue given the town's effective management and strong financial practices. This includes conservative budgeting and mandatory application of surpluses to pay down unfunded other post-employment benefit liabilities. The town also benefits from the flexibility to raise revenues through taxation, though its use of this lever has been minimal, as evidenced by its tax rate, which is among the bottom third of the state. And this is the thing I've been trying to communicate. We have a wealth of services, we have a 41 mill rate, but we have low property values. So the mill rate in and of itself isn't particularly important. You have to understand the services we provide and the values that we assign to that mill rate to basically balance our budget. In the end, Moody's recognizes that our taxation rate is in the bottom third. I saw this morning in the Hartford Current that West Hartford released their grand list, and it's over $7.2 billion, more than double East Hartford. So again, we're all in this together. We always try to reach the lowest possible tax rate, but the services that East Hartford provides are substantial and they are meaningful. So that being said, we look forward as we enter into the budget season, and we're happy to take any questions through the Ask the Mayor or simply by calling our office at 860-291-7201. Look forward to engaging with you in the coming months. East Hartford has a bright future. 2023 is going to be good or better than 2022 was, and I simply ask for your patience and support as we get after it. Take care, everybody.